Hello everyone, the topic of this video is going to be Bonn meeting, and this meeting is right now being held in Germany, held in Bonn. And this meeting is actually talking about the problem of climate change. When it comes to climate change, the biggest meeting that we have is COP, which is under UNFCCC. उसके बारे में सबको पता होता है because that is widely covered in media. But this Bonn meeting is not widely covered in media, but this is also very important meeting when it comes to addressing the problem of climate change. तो आज की वीडियो हम लोग क्या क्या कवर करने वाले हैं that you must see. तो ये what is the actually purpose of this Bonn meeting, Bonn Convention, and how it plays an important role when it comes to UNFCCC. So what is the purpose of that? Apart from that, we are also going to learn about a very important term which is global stocktake or GST. ये GST थोड़ा अलग होता है, जो इंडिया में GST है goods and service tax, that is totally different. What is global stocktake and what is the problem of USA and some European countries when it comes to the global stocktake? What is the term closing the pre-2020 gap? This term is being used in Bonn meeting right now. USA has some problems with it. What is this meaning of this and how it plays a very important role when it comes to Kyoto, when it comes to Paris, or when it comes to recently going on Bonn meeting. So these are some of the things that we are going to learn from this whole chapter. So what is this Bonn meeting, or what is this Bonn Climate Change Conference 2023? Because you very well know हेडक्वार्टर जो है UNFCCC का, दैट इज ऑल्सो इन द बॉन, सो इट इज हैपनिंग देयर ओनली. इसका एक और जो ऑफिशियल नाम है दैट इज कॉल्ड सब्सिडरी बॉडी फॉर द साइंटिफिक एंड द टेक्नोलॉजिकल एडवाइस and the subsidiary body of the implementation, or in short it is also called SB58. This is the 58th session. You also must know that हर साल होता है, at the middle of the year ये होता है. What are the important issues which are going to be discussed by this Bonn meeting? Global stocktake, global goal on the adaptation, what is the meaning of just transition, what is loss and damage and mitigation program, and all that. These are going to be discussed about this because next COP is going to happen in UAE in December 2023. So what is going to happen? Actually, they are trying to prepare a path that will lead to finally to the negotiation at UAE in 2023, which is going to be under UNFCCC as a COP. So we are going to discuss about that as well. Khair, what is the history? So they have talked about a little bit the history in this article. So basically they are talking about that in the middle of the 1990s, ultimately world became very serious about the problem of climate crisis, and they met at in 1992 they met at Rio de Janeiro, which is all called the Earth Summit. So that's a different story altogether. उसके बारे में हम लोग कभी बाद में बात करेंगे. But yes, apart from COP, there is this Bonn meeting which also happens every year. What is the purpose of this meeting? Purpose of this meeting is to feed into the year-ending annual climate change conference. What does it mean? It means, look, in COP we have our politicians. They go there and they participate, they debate, they discussion. But in the Bonn meeting, politicians are not there. Who are there? Experts, bureaucrats, scientists, they are there. It means the discussions which are going at the Bonn are going to be more specific about the climate change. Even IPCC also provides the evidence for the climate change at the Bonn meeting. So they are also going to discuss about that as well. Apart from that, another topic which is going to be of great importance at the Bonn meeting is going to be global stocktake. So there is going to be intense discussions about it. What is the meaning of global stocktake? Let me tell you. This global stocktake is actually first mandated by Paris Convention in 2015. It talks about the assessing the progress being made in the fight against climate change and deciding the ways to means to enhance the global effort to bridge the adequacy gap. So what happened? We had NDC, which is called nationally determined contribution. So every country actually provided their own voluntary targets at the Paris Convention, that these are the steps that they are going to take nationally to control the problem of climate change. But just promising is not enough. They need to do something concrete in order to achieve their targets. But this can only be ensured when there is a periodic assessment of the progress made by these countries. That progress, assessing of the progress, is called global stocktake. which is in short is called GST, which is called GST. Basically, it again talks about that every 5th year, what is going to happen? There is going to be assessment of the progress made by these countries. This progress is of what? The promises that made, which is called NDC. Why it is necessary for us? In order to address the problem of climate change, so that we can keep the global temperature below 1.5 degrees centigrade from pre-industrial time. It can be taken place only when there is a check and balance and periodic assessment of the progress or the promises made by the countries. Otherwise, this is not possible. The world needs to cut its emission by almost half by 2030 from 2019 level. This term is very important, 2019 level. Here it is not talking about pre-industrial year. In order to achieve 1.5 degree target, what we need to do? We need to achieve the reduction of the greenhouse gases by half by 2030 and 2019 level. Apart from that, we also need to achieve net zero target by 2050. And if we are not able to do that, then there is going to be large scale catastrophe. That is why these promises become very, very important, and their assessment also becomes very important. But there are some issues. Why developed country and developing countries are actually fighting over this GST? There is this one very important reason. Rich and developed countries, they promised a lot at the Paris Convention. They promised a lot at the Kyoto Protocol as well, but they are not able to fulfill their individual and their group commitments. And that is why there is a doubt over their intentions by the developing countries like India and China. These developed countries are also trying to pressurize China and India to take more proactive steps, but they are not fulfilling their own promises. That is the tussle going on there right now. Now, what is going to happen further? There is very important term which is called closing the pre-2020 gap, which is also going on there. What happened? In 2020, Kyoto Protocol were actually that was the last deadline of the Kyoto Protocol 2020. Post 2020 or post Kyoto Protocol, we had Paris Agreement, which is going to be implemented post Kyoto. 2020 is a very important year here. These developed countries, they had a responsibility to fulfill their promises before 2020, but they have not promised, or they have not fulfilled their promise. Now, what is the problem? India, China, and other 134 countries, they are demanding from these developed countries that first they should fulfill or they should close their gap pre-2020. It means the promises that they made, that they are going to fulfill by 2020, first they must fulfill that. Only then there is going to be a room for the negotiation further. This is the problem which is going to be raised by USA, and actually they are trying to raise this in the Bonn meeting also. USA said, whatever happened pre-2020, don't care about that. Leave that aside. Let's talk anew. But India said, China said, other countries said no. These 40 countries must fulfill their promises which they made pre-2020. Only then there is going to be very concrete promises from the developing countries. So this is something that they need to understand. So USA is saying that. There is one very important issue that USA is raising. When it comes to address the problem of climate change, so ultimate goal is to reduce the emission of greenhouse gases. But which sector you are going to include for that? That becomes very important. India said, we have our own NDC, which is also called Panchamrit. Under our Panchamrit or NDC, India focused on few sectors. India focused on renewable energy. India focused on improving the energy efficiency. India focused on afforestation. These are some of the sectors that India focused on. But USA has a problem with that. USA is saying that apart from these sectors, India must focus on the agriculture sector also, because agriculture is also a very prominent sector which releases greenhouse gas, especially methane. So paddy cultivation actually causes a lot of emission of the greenhouse gases, methane. America is saying you need to focus on that. India has a problem with that. India said, this is our sovereign right. Whatever we want to include in our NDC, you cannot dictate us. These promises cannot be implemented economy wide. We have sovereign right that which sectors we can actually include in that, whatever we like. India is not ready to include agriculture sector because paddy cultivation is very important for us. Rice is a staple food for Indians. India is saying, first fulfill your pre-2020 gaps, your promises, only then we can talk about it. Even China is also on the side of India here, along with 134 developing countries. So this is something which is going to be part of discussion at the Bonn meeting. Bonn meeting becomes very important in the sense when these countries meet at COP, Conference of Parties, UNFCCC, the observations and the negotiations done at Bonn meeting becomes very, very prominent there. One important thing or one significant thing about the Bonn meeting is that this is out of the media coverage. First of all, politicians are not there. So discussions are actually more intense, more science driven. Rather than in the COP, they are mostly failures, right? Because majorly politicians are there. Ultimately, their ideologies they also collide with each other, and finally they are not able to reach to a particular conclusion. But in the Bonn meeting, there are more experts, scientists and all that. So that is why this meeting becomes very important. So I hope you got the idea about these terms. Even if you see a few years back, PIB has also this tweet that Prime Minister Modi has, we have also updated our target for the renewable. Earlier it was 175 gigawatt. Now this is 450 gigawatt. So basically India is trying to do a lot to fulfill its promise, but we cannot include agriculture sector. It means we cannot basically reduce our area of the paddy cultivation because that is the staple food in India. So this is something that you need to know about the Bonn meeting, which is happening in the Germany. There is going to be a meeting at UAE at the end of the year, which is the COP, which is under UNFCCC. So these are some things that you must know about this article. I hope you got the point. And if you have some doubts, some feedback, you can write freely in the comment section.